The Threshold of Annihilation. Dex Halloway existed everywhere and nowhere. His consciousness stretched across 17 dimensions like a thread pulled too thin, each fragment experiencing a different reality simultaneously. In one, he stood on the bridge of the Nightingale, watching Alara's face contort with horror. In another, he floated in the crystalline chamber housing the Cosmic Crucible, bathed in its ancient light. In a third, he was back on Starbase 447, mopping floors in the maintenance bay while Garrett told him about his late wife. All of it was real. All of it was happening now. The dimensional pathway the Crucible had shown him, the backdoor approach that would let them arrive ahead of the conspiracy, wasn't a gift. It was a trap. The device had lured him into fragmenting his consciousness across impossible spaces, and now it was systematically consuming each piece. "You showed me this path," Dex thought, directing the accusation toward the massive sphere of crystalline energy that pulsed in multiple dimensions at once. "You wanted me to try it." The Crucible's voice resonated through every fragment of his being. The worthy must be tested. The unworthy must be consumed. This is the pattern. This is the purpose. Pain lanced through Dex's scattered consciousness as the Crucible pulled another fragment toward itself. He felt that piece of himself dissolving, becoming part of the ancient device's vast awareness. It was like having a memory surgically removed, not forgotten, but erased from existence entirely. You carry the markers, you see the pattern, but you resist the gift. This is inefficient. Through one fragment, Dex could see Alara in the Nightingale's cockpit, tears streaming down her face as she fought to keep the ship stable. Resonance of distant stars had collapsed into a barely coherent mass of flickering light, her energy matrix so depleted she could no longer maintain humanoid form. The navigation crystal pulsed erratically, threatening to shatter. "Dex!" Alara's voice reached him across dimensions, distorted but desperate. "I don't know how to bring you back. The ship's following the pathway, but you're everywhere. I can't." Another fragment dissolved. Dex felt his sense of self shrinking, compressing. The Crucible was methodically dismantling him, studying each piece before absorbing it into its vast consciousness. 17 civilizations have attempted this journey, the Crucible continued, almost conversational now. None survived the pathway intact. Their consciousness feeds me still, their ambition, their fear, their desperate hope that they could be the exception. Through another fragment, Dex witnessed the spreading galactic war. The death count had climbed past 5,000 now. Thrin warrior clans engaged human fleets in the Outer Rim. Vexian border stations fired on refugee ships, paranoid that any vessel might carry saboteurs. The Cratharium swarm, provoked beyond reason by Admiral Chen's attack, had begun their inexorable advance toward human space. Each death fed the Crucible. Each act of violence strengthened it. "The war progresses well," the device observed. "Another 16 hours before the conspiracy vessels arrive. Sufficient time to fully integrate your consciousness. You will become part of me. Your patterns will join the 17 who came before. This is inevitable." No. Dex focused what remained of his coherent thoughts on that single word. No. Resistance is inefficient. Your consciousness is already fragmenting. Soon there will be nothing left to resist. But the Crucible was wrong about one thing. Dex hadn't just fragmented randomly when he entered the dimensional pathway. His precursor markers had guided the fragmentation, distributing his consciousness according to patterns encoded in his DNA 3 million years ago. Each fragment existed in a specific dimension for a specific reason. The precursors hadn't just left genetic markers as a key to using the Crucible. They'd left them as a weapon against it. Dex pulled. Not trying to reassemble himself, that would play into the Crucible's trap, but instead pulling the fragments closer together while keeping them separate, like fingers spreading apart then coming together to form a fist. The Crucible's attention shifted, its ancient awareness focusing more intently on what remained of Dex's consciousness. "Interesting. You attempt to maintain coherence across dimensional boundaries. This has not been tried before." Through the fragment still connected to his body on the Nightingale, Dex felt Alara grab his hand. Her touch anchored him, gave him a reference point across the chaos of dimensions. He heard her voice, ragged with exhaustion and fear. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. The ship's stabilizing. The pathway is... God, I don't even know how to describe this. We're moving through spaces that shouldn't exist, but we're moving. Just please don't let go. Dex held on to Alara's hand, to his fragmenting consciousness, to the desperate hope that the precursors had given him the tools he needed, if only he could figure out how to use them. The crucible consumed another fragment, then another. Dex's awareness compressed further, his sense of self becoming smaller and more concentrated. But he didn't scatter. He didn't dissolve. Instead, he became denser, more focused. "You are adapting," the crucible observed, and for the first time, Dex detected something other than patient certainty in its voice, surprise. "This is unexpected." "Good. Let it be unexpected." Dex pulled his remaining fragments even closer, maintaining their dimensional separation but linking them through quantum entanglement. The precursor markers in his DNA weren't just allowing him to perceive multiple dimensions. They were teaching him how to exist in them simultaneously, without fragmenting. He was becoming a bridge, not between physical and transcendent existence like the precursors had achieved, but between the dimensions themselves. The crucible's voice hardened, losing its conversational tone. "This is not the pattern. This is not the purpose. You will be consumed. You will join the 17. This is inevitable." The ancient device redoubled its efforts, pulling at Dex's consciousness with force that would have shattered him moments ago. But he'd adapted now. His fragments were no longer vulnerable pieces waiting to be picked off one by one. They were nodes in a network, each supporting the others. Through his connection to the Nightingale, Dex felt the ship accelerate. Impossible acceleration, moving through dimensional spaces faster than any vessel should be capable of. Resonance had collapsed completely, her light barely visible now. But the navigation crystal was stabilizing, pulsing in rhythm with Dex's distributed consciousness. He was navigating, not consciously directing the ship, but his fragmented awareness was creating a map across dimensions, and the Nightingale was following that map. "We're gaining on them," Alara's voice reached him, filled with desperate hope. "The conspiracy ships, I can see them on sensors now. Not in normal space, but God, Dex, I don't know how to explain this. I can see them through you, through whatever you've become. We're going to reach the crucible first." The ancient device's attention fully focused on Dex now, abandoning any pretense of patience or inevitability. "You will not reach me before the conspiracy. You will not survive this pathway. I will consume you completely." It attacked with everything it had, dimensional pressure that should have crushed Dex's consciousness into oblivion. Ancient techniques perfected over 3 million years of testing and consuming those who sought its power. But Dex had something the 17 previous civilizations hadn't. He had Alara's hand gripping his, anchoring him to physical reality. He had Resonance's fading light, using the last of her energy to stabilize the navigation crystal. He had Admiral Strand's trust, Garrett's faith, the matriarch's belief that he was different. He had spent 6 years being nobody, learning to see patterns others missed, understanding systems from the inside out. The Crucible was a system, ancient and incomprehensibly complex, but still a system. And every system had vulnerabilities. Dex found one, a tiny flaw in the dimensional web the Crucible had woven to trap him, not large enough to escape through, but large enough to exploit. He pushed against it, using his distributed consciousness to apply pressure from 17 directions simultaneously. The web trembled. "Impossible," the Crucible said, and now its voice carried something Dex had never heard before. Uncertainty. "The pattern does not allow this." The web tore. Dex's consciousness snapped back together like a rubber band released from tension. All 17 fragments converged, no longer separate pieces but facets of a single unified awareness that could perceive and exist in multiple dimensions at once. He slammed back into his body with force that should have killed him. Blood erupted from his nose, his ears, the corners of his eyes. Every nerve screamed. His heart stopped. Then started again with a painful jolt, but he was whole. Changed, but whole. "Dex," Alara was shaking him, her face inches from his. "Say something, please." He opened his eyes, saw her face, saw the cockpit around them, saw simultaneously the 17 dimensions through which they traveled, the conspiracy ships falling behind them, the Crucible growing larger ahead, and the spreading war that fed it with every death. He saw everything. "I'm here," he whispered, his voice raw. "I'm different, but I'm here." Resonance stirred, her form coalescing slightly. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible. "You survived. The awakening is complete. You are the bridge." "How long until we reach the Crucible?" Dex asked. Alara checked her instruments, her hands shaking. "At this speed, 4 hours. Maybe less. The conspiracy ships are 12 hours behind now." "We did it, Dex. We're going to get there first." Dex pulled himself into a sitting position, ignoring the blood still trickling from his nose. Through his altered perception, he could see the Crucible clearly now, not just in one dimension, but in all of them simultaneously. Could see the conspiracy ships approaching from the conventional route. Could see the war spreading across dozens of systems. Could see the death count climbing past 6,000. "We need to prepare," he said. "The Crucible knows we're coming. It's going to try to stop us." "It already tried," Alara said. "You survived. That wasn't trying to stop us." Dex met her eyes, letting her see the truth in his multidimensional gaze. "That was testing me, seeing if I was worthy of what comes next." "And are you?" Dex thought about the 17 civilizations that had sought the Crucible's power. Thought about the conspiracy, believing they could control it. Thought about the ancient device patiently waiting for 3 million years, testing everyone who approached, consuming those who failed. Thought about the flaw he'd found in its dimensional web, the vulnerability that shouldn't exist in something so ancient and powerful. Unless... "The precursors built it to be destroyed," he said slowly, the realization dawning across all 17 dimensions of his awareness simultaneously. Not by force, not by anyone trying to control it, but by someone who could see the pattern and choose to break it. Resonance's light flared weakly. "The matriarch suspected this. Why she chose you." "Then we have 4 hours to figure out how," Alara squeezed his hand. "Because once we arrive, the conspiracy won't be far behind. And if we fail..." She didn't need to finish. Through his expanded awareness, Dex could see the consequences of failure spreading across probability lines like cracks in glass. The conspiracy activating the Crucible, billions dying to feed it. Reality itself reshaping according to human supremacist ambitions. Or if they tried to stop it by force and failed, the Crucible consuming them all and continuing its patient wait for the next civilization to find it. The galaxy had 4 hours. Maybe less. Dex stood on legs that barely supported him, one hand gripping the bulkhead for support, the other still holding Alara's hand. Through the observation port, he could see the stars warping as they traveled through impossible dimensions. Could see, with his altered perception, the crystalline chamber growing closer. Could see the Cosmic Crucible waiting for them, ancient and patient and absolutely certain that it had already won. It was wrong. It had to be wrong. But Dex had no idea how to prove it.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.